Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1 minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And Kyle.
Yes, sir.
We are fans of miniatures.
And you're just going to tell everyone that?
Well, I know it's private for both of us, but we love Legos. We love action figures.
Yep.
And I know we played with stuff like that when we were kids. We play with them today as adults. We just love that stuff. We love the
Micro Machines,
miniaturization.
dramatically detailed. Tremendously
Oh my
styled.
God. Micro Machines, Gloob.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. It's coming back. Micro Machines are coming back.
Somewhere in my garage, I have a complete set of the Micro Machines Star Trek vehicles.
Oh, yes.
And I think, though I'm trying to remember if I ever got them, I was on the hunt for a long time for the Babylon 5 ones, which were very hard to find.
Yeah, those were hard to find. The Star Trek ones were funny because I think the last big set was they would come out, Toys R Us would have the big, huge mega sets. Mm-hmm. And there'd always be one exclusive ship in that set that you couldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
That was the only way you could get the Enterprise E was through getting the big set.
Yeah, that's why I did. I ended up getting the big set.
Oh, I had, and then they did the gold ones, and I was like, I don't care about those. Whatever. I want them to look like the real ships. Okay, right. Now we love all this stuff, right? Obviously, architectural models have been used to examine all different types of design, to communicate design ideas. Architectural models go all the way back to 4600 BC. That is actually one of the earliest ones in modern day Bulgaria is where this was found. And it's believed that the models back then were not necessarily for architectural design. They were there to be used as gifts or to be placed in tombs. So that's kind of where a lot of that is, where that comes from. Or, if you want to hide the Ark of the Covenant, you got to make a decent model as a map because that's
if you want to have a place where Beetlejuice to hang out, you got to have a diorama.
Model railroads, yes, right? Like all this stuff. There's always this fascination of miniaturizing everything and being the lord of that domain. My Lego town is called Robtropolis, in case you didn't know.
I visited Robtropolis. It's a very nice and clean place.
It is. It's kind of crazy, actually. So here's the deal. Like architectural models, it's really kind of changing because, one, you've got VR now. You can do all this stuff virtually. If you want to show people what your new shopping area is going to be like or your new building, you can visually show them that in a different way. And it's a little bit different in that the models, and we see architectural models all the time in the MCU. I mean, they play a role in Ant-Man. It's actually a major set piece in Ant-Man in one of the Ant-Man movies. But, they're just, I think they're waning in their usefulness in our today's world because you're not necessarily seeing them, they're trying to expand a shopping mall and they have to show you what that's going to look like as you walk through the mall. Like, you don't see that as much anymore. Again, because everything now can just be rendered on a YouTube video and you get the take of what everything is. This is an art form. I really like this. And I love when architectural models are used as a very important plot device, which we're going to start to get the inklings of in this minute.
But the art has not entirely gone away because I remember my first glimpse at Batu was of a full-scale model. When they first rolled out Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, they did it by displaying the model. Like they actually had they built a full thing and then sort of they walked around with a small camera inside it to show you what it was going to look like. I also remember visiting California Adventure, and they actually had a full diorama of what Cars Land was going to be when they were still under construction of that too. So Disney is still keeping this going, but you're right. It is an art form. It is dying out, and that is a shame because I think there is something you get from seeing the 3D tactile version of something as opposed to just a virtual rendering of it.
Absolutely. Totally.
So, because here we are at minute 75 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Mr. Jon Favreau. But we pick up where we left off, which is watching the wacky outtakes of Howard Stark. Pew, 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 pew. Bloopers and practical jokes. Here we are. So Tony is looking through the notebooks as he is watching things. He is multitasking because that's the kind of guy he is. So we see him both reading and watching at the same time in the same way that we watch a movie while looking at our phones. Really getting enjoyment out of neither of them. Right. The future. So Howard Stark continues on from what he was saying. He says, in the future, actually, I'll do the whole line. So he says, I'm Howard Stark, and everything you'll need in the future can be found right here. So from all of us at Stark Industries, I'd like to personally, and then he realizes that he's not alone in the shot, because behind him, why, it's the second actor to portray Tony Stark on screen. This is Davin Ransom. He has 9 credits on IMDb. He did a bunch of stuff. A couple of things, some soap operas and some voiceover work, and then I think he just went to be a normal kid. That was it. And as far as I can tell, he has just left the business and is living a normal life. So we wish him all the best.
Well, and come on, when on your call sheet here, you are Tony Stark, because that is one of your roles,
right?
That's pretty awesome. So way to go.
So he's in the back. He has snuck around and he is lifting up. I'm not sure do we know exactly what it is? Is that the pavilion?
It looks.
It's a big round, sort of oval shaped building.
Now it is on one of the edges, so it's not one of the centerpieces, but it is right next to. It looks like a body of water too. So
he goes and he's basically lifting it to take it with him or to play with it or whatever. And then suddenly Howard realizes that he's there. Says, Tony, what are you doing back there? What is that? And so he's holding up the building. He says, put it back where you got it from. Where's your mother? Maria. And he says, go on, go. And then we see like a PA or a grip come in and sort of take Tony and then sort of shuffle him off to the side. Then, basically, we have another edit, so it's like, kids ruining all of our stock. You know how expensive film stock is,
right?
And then we see there's a voice from off screen saying, "All right, I think we got." And Howard says, "I'll come in," and then we another cut, and then so we see Howard just like being very, very Mad Men, like sitting there staring into camera with his glass full of whiskey, most likely, like
it's a highball.
Yeah, exactly. Kind. Like, are you waiting on me? And then it cuts back to Howard doing the end of the pitch or whatever. So he said, so from all of us at Stark Industries, I'd like to personally show you my ass. So like you can tell like he's had a few and he's tired of doing this, and so he turns and sort of like almost flashes the camera a little bit.
His backside.
And so like you can see he's clearly done. Like, you've got that. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't. We have this, don't we? This is ridiculous. And then it cuts there too. And we see Tony is flipping through the notebook, and almost at the same point, he realizes he's gotten to the end.
Right.
Like, there's no more. The notebook and the rest of the pages are totally blank. So he flips through basically like, this is as far as Howard got, and then he was died, and we know how his story came to an end too, which will be important later on. So we hear like some of the voices still going over on the thing. He's trying to do it again. He says everything is achievable through technology, and so Tony like throws the book aside and like takes a drink, just like dear old Dad used to. And then so that's kind of where the minute comes to an end. So not a whole lot of. Not a whole lot of major plot stuff happening here, but we're moving the story slowly along, slowly rolling it towards a resolution.
Now, okay, and obviously, there isn't a whole lot to this minute. However, there is some really wonderful, and it's subtly portrayed, advancing of the storyline of Tony Stark and who he is and his relationship with his deceased father and how this is all going to play out later. One of the things I really love is that as he's watching this footage that I would say he's never seen because it's been locked away in this case for all this time. Here's this amazing moment where when young Tony comes into the scene, here he is sitting down. He's listening to this as he's being distracted, working on his little, for lack of a better term, the compact iPad, right? Mm-hmm. And he hears his father's voice say, "Who's there? Hey, what are you doing back there?" Right? Like this person, his estranged father, who's gone, and he's literally hearing his voice talking to him.
Right. Saying, Tony, what are you doing back there? And it's
it's unbelievable. And Robert Downey Jr. does a really great job. There's 2 real long moments here where it's just him looking at the screen. Mm-hmm. And you can see there is so much going on in his expression, because his expression is, I hate you. But it's also with, boy, I miss you. And you can see the intensity. You can see where he's like, man, I want to have a conversation with you right now. And we can't. This is the conversations we should have had.
Yeah.
It's such an important part of the story. I mean, I know it seems like a low minute, no, there's actually a lot going on here with who Tony Stark is going to become right here. And I think you're planting the seeds for this in multiple movies later on. This relationship, this change of heart, like what I did there, with how he feels for his father.
So it's almost like he's solving a riddle.
Oh, I was not going to say that, but maybe. Yeah, tiny bit.
But yeah, it's also interesting, like the power of editing too, because like I would say with reasonable surety that Tony Stark was Robert Downey Jr., I should say, was looking at nothing, because it's highly likely that John Slattery stuff was shot way later.
Yes. Oh, no, that's true, right.
I would not imagine that he's basically he's just looking at a flickering light and he's supposed to like thinking about what it was. And so then when they cut together, then you really get these, but the time it's just acting to nothing. I remember hearing a story that the actor who played Dexter on Dexter.
Right.
He was talking about how internal he would get, and how basically, because a lot of Dexter is done in voiceover, and so it's a lot of him just like looking out, and as then later on they record the voiceover, they put it over the top of it, and so but it's all written out. So the actor would say he would think about what it was he was doing and like really reflect on it, and then like sort of look out into the middle distance and be thinking about that exact thing and then he saw a cut of one of the episodes and remembered the take that they used, and that take he was trying to figure out what he was going to have for lunch. And he realized, oh yeah, maybe I don't need to try quite that hard. Like,
right.
Like it's okay to just be like, look meanly concerned, and let the voiceover do the work.
Right. No, I don't think, and when you look at this, I don't think they've tried to hide anything in the footage. There, you mentioned the big weird like cuts that happen in the footage, because again, this is done with old fashioned movie reels, right? So they kind of try to portray that. Oh, and then there's some weird shots that are in there. Yeah. There's a moment where it transitions to the part before we see Howard drinking. There's two interesting shots. There's a shot of like the skyline. It's like, I forget what those are called. Not like a ski lift, but like a lateral lift that takes you through like, fairgrounds or theme parks.
Yeah. Like the Skyway.
The Skyway.
Yeah,
there's a shot of that. And it's a close up shot of the model. And then there's a curious shot of airplanes, little miniature airplanes that are in the model. I have no idea what those are connected to, but I do think that is an interesting shot selection. Which I don't know what the meaning is. I couldn't find anything about obviously that
all I
type
can think
of detail.
Is that it was from the World's Fair that they would have planes like on display. That they actually would have them as part of the exhibits.
Right.
In the 70s, 74.
Right. 73. So they're recording this in 73, right?
Right. So recording in 73 for the World's Fair in 74.
So no, I just that was an interesting take. And then, I think what you're also seeing this too is when you go to the moment where Howard Stark has this playful moment, which we'll talk a lot more about in the next minute. Mm-hmm. He has this moment where he's like, oh, I want to show you my backside.
Mm-hmm.
I think you see Tony's reaction kind of side-eyeing him. Like, did my dad have a personality?
Yeah.
Did he?
My dad had a weird sense of humor. What?
He was kind of snarky.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is the story of Tony reconciling with his father. I mean, and what's amazing is that this is the beginnings of that. This will not be completed until near the end of phase 3.
Yeah. So
that's a long story.
So I'm trying to I haven't done the math on this, so I'm just going to sort of wing it. But Howard Stark in 1974 is approximately the same age as Tony Stark in 2010. Right. So he's looking at his dad.
Yes.
At the age that he currently is.
Yes.
As opposed to seeing him as the old man. Like, this is what he was like. Now, I would say, I think probably Howard is a little bit older because he already has a kid and stuff too. But I mean, I guess, Tony Stark has lived the wild bachelor life for all this time. But I would say probably within 10 years.
Probably,
like I said, I haven't done the math because I'd say, but it's interesting to see a person looking at someone. This is actually kind of how the genesis of Back to the Future came about, is because Bob Gale was looking at a high school yearbook of his dad and wondered, would my dad and I have been friends in high school if we went together? And that's the genesis of the idea that eventually went back to traveling back and meeting him and like meeting him as a peer and that kind of thing. So it's the same thing. It's a kind of the same idea here, is that he's looking at him not as necessarily as dad, but as a businessman in the same position that he's in now, running an expo and having a business and that kind of stuff, but in a different part of his life.
Wow.
So yeah. So there's a lot going on here in Minute 75.
Have you ever? Okay, this is a side note. Do you know who Medgar Evers was?
Yeah, I do.
So Medgar Evers, civil rights activist in the United States. He was sadly assassinated, and when he was buried, there was a controversy in the 90s about something, I forget what it was, about his death, and they exhumed the body. When they exhumed the body, his son was present to witness all this. Wow. And there was a story that I read about his body, one of those takes where the body stayed preserved incredibly well for 30 years. Huh. And there was a moment where his son is standing there looking at his father's body and realizing he is about at the same age that he was at his father's death. Wow. And he's seeing his father at the same age. Like, I mean, hello, that's mind blowing. That's exactly what you're talking about in this scene. Like that. I mean, I know we're going real deep here, but that's what's happening. He's finally getting to connect to his father at where he is in his life and realizing my dad is not the guy that either I remember or I have fabricated in my memories. I do think that is Tony Stark's riddle.
The riddle of his heart?
The riddle of his memories.
Oh.
Remembering his life. I don't know. Wow. That's deep. Yeah. We went deep today.
We did. And, I think Rob, I would say that our insights today are worthy of 5 stars.
Oh, 5-star insights.
Yeah. If only there was a place that people could give us those stars to really let us know that they also felt something and saw the amount of work and thought and that we put into the show today. Boy, I don't know. Is there any place you could think of that we could send them?
Could it be the places where they actually subscribe and listen to this podcast?
Oh, you mean like their apps, their podcatchers, their
like
their
Apple
websites?
Podcasts or Google
or Spotify?
Spotify, yes, including Spotify. So if you have enjoyed any of the stuff you've heard over the last 75 minutes, you could go to one of those places and leave a little review and maybe leave a couple of stars. Let people know. It helps 5
us
stars
to know that what we're doing actually is reaching people and also helps other people to find the show. Because if it's something you like, why better than to share it?
No, share it. 5 stars helps us out. If you don't want to give 5 stars, talk to us and maybe we can still make things better. I mean, we'll talk to you on the weekends and stuff like that. We'll figure that out. But listen,
4 stars and 1 to grow on.
Think about all the amazing knowledge. Think about the growth you've had. We know it's been tough. This show is taking it to a whole new level.
There's people who just slag off of the show, but no, we bring in deep philosophical insights. We talk about Rachmaninoff. We talk about Ulysses. We talk about RDX. I mean, where else are you going to get this high quality content? If that's without 5 stars, then by God, George, I don't even know you.
Just give us 5 stars. Thanks.
So be back here for minute 76 as we get Howard Stark from the past talking to his son in the future, which is also in our past. What? Prepare for your minds to be blown in minute 76. You do not want to miss it. Enough said.
Bye.